Hi, everybody. This is Ted coming to you from inside the Boston 25 World headquarters, our podcast room, which we're still working on to make it perfect for future podcasts. Any chance I get to talk with Peter Tragos, who's at Lawyer You Know, I will take it. Peter kindly agreed to jump on with me today and talk about a big development we broke yesterday. Pete, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I saw when you guys tweeted this. It's just seems like it's never ending.
Okay, let's lay it out for everybody first. Yesterday, Alan Jackson wrote this letter. I know it's hard to see to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and the head of the Massachusetts Post Commission. The Post Commission is the agency that oversees all police officers and sort of tracks their conduct and creates creates a statewide database. So he's asking that Post investigate the commissioner of Boston Police and that the commissioner of the Boston Police be put on a list of untruthful police officers called the Brady List. So what were your thoughts when you saw that?
I think Alan Jackson continues to put pressure on everybody involved here because let's not forget there's a civil case going on with law enforcement officers involved there. They continue to try to fight for justice and not just for Karen Read, but everybody in the Commonwealth right now could potentially have to deal with something like this. And not only should you know about it, you should not only should you know about it because you might end up being involved or in the crosshairs of one of these law enforcement officers, but some people that you vote for, it could affect who is in these positions. And do you want somebody you can trust? Do you want somebody that's going to protect and serve the people? Or do you want somebody that's going to protect and serve law enforcement and just protect their own and that you can't believe what they're saying? And if you have it in black and white or in living color, like we have here, we've got documents and we've got video of these people saying things that just do not corroborate with each other. We've got Dever saying one thing and we've got Cox saying something and we've got emails saying something else. The people should know about that.
Yeah, and let's back up and kind of go over what the complaint is from Jackson. Jackson is saying that Cox wasn't truthful when he spoke to reporters about his connection to his then police officer, Kelly Dever, who testified in Karen Read's retrial. Obviously, her testimony was explosive just because she sparred so much with, I think it was Jackson. And what Jackson is saying here is that when Cox told reporters that, hey, I don't even know this person's connected to the Karen Read case, that was untruthful because a woman by the name of Corey Hopkins, she's a lawyer from North Carolina,
Yep.
filed a public records request and showed that an FBI agent actually sent a letter to the commissioner talking about naming Dever in particular. And Corey also got a calendar entry on Cox's official calendar that said he had a meeting with Dever, which Dever testified to in the second trial. I mean, do you think that this was Cox just caught off guard and kind of didn't know what to say at the time, or are we really looking at something that's, him trying to completely pull the wool over everyone's eyes?
She got these documents. It shows absolutely somebody was not telling the truth. And what sucks for them is Dever already was, her credibility was shot on the stand when she said she created a false memory. So when she was saying something and Cox was saying something else, when you're looking at, who has more credibility, it looked like Cox in the moment. But now that the documents and the receipts come out, it looks like Dever was telling the truth. And Cox, he didn't look like he was surprised or he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't look like he was taken off guard or taken aback by the question. He seemed like he wanted to have nothing to do with Karen Read, wanted
Yep.
to stay as far away from it as he possibly could. So they used it as a sword for Kelly Dever to try to bolster her testimony that she met with the commissioner about this. And then they used it as a shield where Cox was like, no, 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 I have nothing to do with this. That case is over. Let's move on. It doesn't jive.
Do you think this was just people inside BPD saying, "Hey, this case is a lightning rod, Commissioner. Just, if you're going to get asked about it, just try to move on and move the questions away."
I find it hard to believe that somebody would tell him to make up a lie that wasn't true, that they might not know if it was true or not. They may say things like, hey, if you can distance yourself, do that for PR purposes. Like, we don't want to have anything to do with this. But I don't, I mean, I don't know that they would tell him, hey, say a meeting didn't happen that did happen, or, say that, sure, that meeting did happen. And Dever said it was a certain topic. Cox says it wasn't a certain topic. We still don't necessarily have confirmation of what they spoke about in the meeting, but there's definitely confirmation from the email that Cox knew Dever was connected to Karen Read, at least in some way.
And I've seen some people, arguing that, well, Cox is a busy guy. This was in 2024. But then there's the other argument of how often is the commissioner meeting with a person who's essentially, I think, a rookie at the time? How many of those meetings are actually taking place in his office, private one-on-one meetings? And I'm sure he meets with a number of officers, but you would think that something of this magnitude, that it would be hard to forget.
Yeah, I think that generally speaking, the answer is that doesn't happen that often, but we don't know from commissioner to commissioner. Everybody's trying new things to try to build better office environment, better leadership, better training. So sure, it could happen that he's meeting more than a normal commissioner might. And if he said, listen, I have no recollection, she could have been connected to Karen Reed. We could have talked about Karen Reed. I don't remember that conversation. That's not really how it sounded from his interview or from these emails. So I find it hard to believe. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I like to give people
Yep,
grace. This
I do
one's
too.
this one's a tough look. It's a tough look for him.
From Jackson's side, though, is this just performative, or can this actually? And first, I have a question. Is the commissioner a civilian, and does that protect them from being on the Brady list or being a part of the post commission review? Or, I mean, he's commissioner
Yeah, that's a
slash
good
kind of
question.
chief. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that, how much, and that would have to come. I think that decision would have to be made by the Suffolk DA's office. Usually it's the county DAs who control the Brady lists for the cities and towns, that fall under them. I would not, I don't necessarily think that this is something that will be acted on. That's my opinion. But how far can he take it? Where, is there another chain up the ladder? If Jackson says, "Hey, I'm 100% dead serious about this, and I'm not going to let this drop."
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how he gets on the Brady list or if he's exempt from the Brady list. I think if, and because they don't do the same work that a detective would, being proctor hands on, doing these interviews, but it could come into play in certain 1983 actions potentially. But I think that you asked if this was performative. I wouldn't say it's performative, but I definitely think there's a PR element of this letter to show, look at how corrupt this is. We were right, because there's still narratives out there that all of this was created by Karen Reed and her defense team, that the cops were lying or conspiracy or planting or covering things up or whatever it may be. And they're like, listen, there's juice to this squeeze, there's smoke to this. And I think so. It's a continuation of that. I also think, I mean, people hate lawyers, but lawyers like to shine a light sometimes. And listen, Karen Reed's not guilty, but there's still a lot of other people under the control and command of these people and at the mercy of their power. And I think that it is important that people understand this, that if you think other criminal defense lawyers in this area are not looking at these letters and saying, we need to figure out what's going on here because this could affect our clients, you're mistaken.
And I think something important to point out is that Jackson did the same thing with Dever. We spoke about it the day
Mm-hmm.
that letter happened. Jackson asked that Dever be put on the Brady list, and just for people, I think most people know, but the Brady list is sort of a list of untruthful police officers. So whenever that person goes to testify in a trial, the defense would learn that they're on the Brady list, and that can make them impeachable. Correct?
Yes, and they can get certain documents or information that they'd be able to ask them if they were to be put on the stand. It makes it difficult for officers once they're on the Brady list.
So, when you look at that case, Dever, and we don't know why Kelly Dever resigned, but she was gone within, I don't know, it was weeks or months after Jackson's letter. So I would have to think that letter played some role in her decision to end her career, as a law enforcement officer. And so, what are we looking at for the ramifications with this?
Yeah, I think obviously she was in a different position than the commissioner's in. And I think that everybody knew that and realized that. And that's kind of what made this a big deal. But that's kind of the point here, is there is some, I don't know, unspoken power to these letters where they do matter. People are looking at them. I think the media should be reporting on them so that, the people in Boston that watch your show should know what's going on. And that's kind of the whole point of my channel, right? Is not just let's talk about this or that or this lawyer or that lawyer, but it's like, know what's going on. This is
Yeah.
going to affect your life. It's either going to affect you or a loved one or someone you know, and understand what's going on and what part you can take in it and what your vote means and what you can do to talk about this thing, bring a light, shine a light in the darkness, in the corruption. That's really important for people to understand that they have the ability to do that where they live.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that content creators are doing so well, and that we're trying to do better with is people like to see behind the curtain, right? They want to
Mhm.
see, and if you're really interested in a certain topic or a case, you want to see how the sausage is made, and taking people through that process is super important. And I mean, this is in terms of process, I've never covered a case where there's been so much process, where there's been so much paper, where and it's a lot of it is really explosive stuff. It's not your normal sort of, motion to extend or something like that. It
Mhm.
usually has meat to it. And, when I got this at 5 o'clock yesterday, I'm like, well, what, how much time do we have to get this on the air? Like, we said, do you think we can hold it till our late newscast so, we can polish it and make it a little nicer? But we knew that it was out there and that no, we needed to just report it, and so far I haven't heard back from Boston Police. I did request to hear back from them, but they did not comment on the Dever situation either. I did not get a response when I asked them about Dever. Um, you surprised by all this?
No, I mean, when the interview happened with Cox after the Karen Reed verdict, he said what he said, and my response was somebody's lying. Either he's lying or Dever is lying. It looks like Dever is getting more and more corroboration as we go. So I'm not really surprised that one of them looks like they're lying. Of course, it could be a misunderstanding. He could have forgotten that meeting could have been about something else, yet he still knew she was somewhat connected from an email. Maybe he didn't see the email. Like, what? There are still things, obviously, that he could try to explain away. It looks like he's lying by what is being presented publicly. I don't know what's inside his mind. I don't know why he did it, what his motivations are, but it doesn't look good. Like I said, based on everything that's coming out, I'm not really surprised. It doesn't look good. I'm not surprised Jackson wrote this letter. I'm not surprised Jackson wrote the Dever letter. None of that really surprises me. And this case continues because they're not done, right? That's what they keep
Yeah,
saying is they're not done. Everybody over there in the Commonwealth probably wishes they were done,
yeah.
but it seems clear they're not.
Does this spill over to the civil suit at all, or are these apples and oranges?
I mean, I think it could. Here's the point. In the civil litigation, so many things come in through the discovery process as potentially discoverable or something that could lead to something that's potentially discoverable, even if it might not be admissible at trial, even if it might not be a piece of evidence. But everything is an individual leverage point. And this could be a leverage point. Like, look at how systemic this is, how far reaching this is with all law enforcement. They were out to get Karen Reed, and who knows, was Proctor or Tully on one of these email lists or text chains, or did they talk to Dever? Did they talk to Cox? It's hard to say that it absolutely will not be part of it. I think it could, but it is a little different than specifically Proctor and Tully. We don't even know who all the defendants are going to be at this point, right, in the civil case. So we still have to kind of wait and see because
Yeah, and
obviously these things are still developing.
I guess that is still something that needs to drop. Karen Reed's civil attorney had mentioned, affirmative claims, but we haven't seen those papered yet. But my understanding it could be any day
Yep.
when that gets in there, and that sort of will show, I guess, well that. So I've seen, how you see some lawsuits that are very dry and they just say violated this law. Do you expect this to be that, or do you expect it to be more narrative, laying out what their argument is?
I expect it to be more fact intensive and a longer narrative explaining exactly why these people are involved. I think, which is probably where you think it's going as well. But I also just, we need to be cognizant of who is listed as a defendant. And if Karen Reed is able to get past a motion to dismiss, that opens the floodgates potentially to discovery and how deep and wide this can really go to try and prove what claims she brings.
Okay, so that makes sense. I get it. So you're saying just like Karen has the opportunity to try to dismiss the civil suit, that can happen on the other side because that's essentially what she's doing, even though she's filing it under the umbrella of the existing suit.
Regardless if it comes in that case or if it comes in a separate case, all the defendants will have the opportunity to file motions to dismiss prior to discovery. So it's not like they get all of these records, they get these emails, they get whatever they want,
Right.
and then determine if it's motion dismiss. It's a motion dismiss first, then discovery. And if the defense still feels like they can't prove it after discovery, then it's a motion for summary judgment based on the discovery and things in the record. So they have to get past the motion to dismiss before the floodgates really open to any additional discovery that we haven't seen or heard of yet.
Why are people so glued to this? I mean, I did some other reporting last week. but nothing in terms of at least my feeds resonates like the reporting I do on this. Is it just because of the national exposure? I know you do a ton of cases on your podcast, Lawyer, where you kind of break down, trending topics and stuff. Like, have you found that too? And do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, outside celebrity cases, which, have their obvious draw, people are kind of more drawn to that just because they know who the people are. And it's weird to see the skeletons in a celebrity's closet. But just a normal person, which Karen Reed was before all this happened, this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest cases I've seen. I think the shock of it, that could this really happen? The stories that they're telling and the corruption, it's like this many people can't be involved. And then it's like, well, this is just too weird. This is just too weird. Big time lawyers,
Yep.
interesting lawyers, lawyers that are willing to put themselves out there and say things and then back it up. Multiple prosecutors being involved, special prosecutors, just kind of the difference in procedure than a lot of cases that we watch. I think the judge had something to do with it, how she handled the courtroom. I think there's just so many aspects of this that make it interesting. I also think that people are getting more interested in the judicial system, especially the criminal justice system over the past few years, really since COVID. And it was kind of like a perfect storm when this came, where somebody really seemed like they were not guilty. Is it possible? Why would cops do this? Why would prosecutors continue to go after somebody that it seems like they're not guilty? It seems like this is what the experts are saying. And I think it really piqued the intrigue. Obviously, multiple trials is always going to be something that's interesting to people, and
Yep.
how different the two trials were. And then now potential civil cases parallel with the criminal cases. It has everything. Like I've covered a lot of cases, handled cases myself
Yep.
that have one or two or three aspects. This seems to have them all.
Yeah, you're right. It does. It does have the Hollywood storyline.
Mhm.
So when it comes to this and Jackson's letter, what are we thinking? Next steps, next type of what happens down the road with this? Does it just go away, or does it become an issue for him and the Boston Police Department?
I mean, for the Boston Police Department, it's probably ignore, don't mention it, hope the news cycle just rotates into whatever the next thing is. My guess is there's not a ton more Jackson can really do pushing this. I think it's something that people are going to discuss. I think it's going to be another check mark, whatever you want to call it. It's like the glass and the Proctor text messages and the Cox Dever situation. I think it's going to be another thing that people pile on as we discuss this case. That's going to be another black mark on law enforcement there and the Commonwealth. But I'm not sure how much more will really come from it. I don't think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he's going to get fired or removed from his
No.
position or reassigned or something like that over this. So I think they're going to kind of hope it goes away and just ignore it, would be my guess.
Okay. Anything else, Peter, that before I let you go, I know you got a tight schedule today, that our collective viewers should be considering and thinking about as we look at this case and this recent development.
You posted the filing in the Miles King case where they said that there were some intimate texts and some
Yeah.
protective orders for some things on Proctor's phone. I agree with them that there's definitely a scenario where a protective order should be granted for people that are completely not involved, but it just opens up again Pandora's box of a situation where what really is there? Who is he talking to? Is it a Kobe Bryant situation where he's sending text or pictures to people that he shouldn't in investigations? Is there some criminal charges that could be attached to this? It just doesn't look good again. And they're trying to protect as much information as they can, but the verbiage that the Commonwealth is using in those filings really has me with a lot of questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and we didn't want to jump to conclusions about, what the intimate pictures, but I mean, at least that on the face value is pretty clear, of people not in the group chat. So, pictures of other people and people probably commenting on them. Yeah, it's not a good look again. And the fact that, I think as we learn more about what's on that phone, I think we'll get a better understanding of why, I guess the state police union cut bait with Michael Proctor and he decided not to do it out of his own pocket.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it definitely makes sense. It doesn't look good. And again, it's just another thing law enforcement has to deal with in this case.
All right. Thank you so much for jumping on with me. I always appreciate your time, and your input. It's always good stuff. And till the next time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everybody.